What's up, everybody? Nick Powles, publisher of 1851franchise.com, here with another episode of Meet the Zor. Today we are talking sugar. If you like these conversations, please click subscribe. You can watch more of these online. Meet the Zor, coming up next. All right, William and Amy, my truth is, and I'm just gonna say this, I was like, I have no idea what sugar even means. And then I had to go watch your video and I had to understand. I'm like, this is fascinating. I didn't even know this existed. So you learn something new every day. So I'm looking forward to the brand side. But before we get to the brand side, I'd like to start on the human side. So for both of you, how did you guys accidentally fall into franchising? What's your franchise backstory?
Sure. Yeah. And I want to let you know, and everyone listening, Nick, or watching, that we bring the energy. So if we're annoying, we know it up front.
Lots of caffeine. So we ended up in the franchise world, honestly, because I'm a consumer too. And I was looking for a solution, a hair removal solution years ago. I'll age myself here, like 20 years ago. And what was on the market as far as waxing and of course shaving just wasn't a great alternative for me. I was getting ingrowns, irritation. I didn't love it. And so actually a friend of mine, we were living in Seattle, told me about sugaring. And I'd never heard of it at the time. So I found somebody honestly tucked away in the back of a hair salon. The poor woman was probably, I think it was a closet that they converted into her little space. But there she was doing her thing. And I booked an appointment and I loved it. No ingrowns, didn't hurt as bad. The product doesn't go on hot. The list goes on and on. So I was a client of hers for almost 8 years. And then we were traveling to Arizona to visit family. I Googled it at the time just to see who else was doing it. Couldn't find anyone. So that started sort of the wheels turning. And, you sit down at the kitchen table and little by little, you start piecing this thing together. And Sugar opened in 2013 in North Scottsdale. And since then, it's just been growing. People love the results. And I think that's how we ended up here 11 years later.
How many locations do you guys have currently?
Sure. So we have 3 corporate locations. And we are done building corporate stores just because it's a lot of work. And we've now, we have to make sure that we have the support in place for our franchisees. So, but we've sold 48 across the country. Franchise locations that are open, we currently have 4, and we have 5 more that are going to open by the end of Q3 or so.
Middle Q3, I'd say.
Q3. Yeah. If all goes well with the build out and whatnot.
Hammer's swinging all over the country right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get the corporate stores going. At what point does franchising come into the discussion?
That's a great one. Yeah. We'd had one and really kind of started working on 2.
Yeah, we didn't start the concept to franchise. I think that's one of the things that makes Sugar really special is that we wanted a location. I wanted a store. I wanted to fill a need in the market. So we know what a day-to-day sort of looks like at Sugar, which I think is really beneficial to our franchisees. But the reason we shifted and started to think franchise is because of the clients. We were having people coming in. We were in North Scottsdale, so we were a destination, and people were coming to vacation, booking an appointment, flying back to Chicago, Googling Sugar or anything like us, and not finding what they were hoping for. So at first you get a couple calls and you think, well, that's really flattering that they would like us in Chicago. And then you start to think, maybe there's something there and we can scale this thing on a national level. And that's what we did.
Sort of reached a maddening point where folks were usually, before anybody takes a trip, they take care of all their purdy, and they were actually flying into town and coming to see us first and taking care of whatever needs they had right away. And we were like, okay, there's nothing like it like us in this town or that town, and that was kind of the second piece for us.
Yeah.
When you decided to go through the pathway of franchising and making that investment into that side of the business, what were your expectations at that point, and how did that play out?
Yeah,
that's a good question.
I think that obviously we thought that the process would be we didn't, I think for us not knowing, we come from a background where we were ops heavy because we were owner operators ourselves. And so we sort of knew every part of our business. Franchising obviously is an entirely new business for us. And so there were things that we didn't sort of understand along the way, like all the compliances and stuff. And so that was kind of the first uptick where we had to sort of learn everything that was necessary. And, starting the different EIN and basically starting from scratch as a rookie all over again. What was really weird about it, Nick, is like when you're kind of a disruptor, and I think this really bugs our sales team, but we're so used to the unknown that we didn't really have as much of a problem with it as we probably should have, because this was a new market when we started. So we've always been probably more comfortable with the unknown than a lot of folks should be in business, and probably we should too. But it's really helped us, and I think that it's been a real benefit for us. And since then, we've brought on most of our sales team has some kind of knowledge for bookkeeping. We have a CPA on staff, so that's helped us along the way too to kind of build it so we can focus on the things that we do best.
Yeah, I mean, like you guys you're pioneering a category, and so if I'm looking at it as an outsider, you get your customer saying, "Man, we love this, and can we buy one of our own?" Which that majority of stories start that way for an emerging franchisor. Then you go through the process of spending a lot of money and energy to basically set up your second business, because now you're a multi-business owner, because being a franchise owner and a corporate operator are two separate businesses. But majority of brands that go through that journey along the way, get some consultants like, you could have 1,000 of these in the next 5 years. But I'll tell you, like, what I love about your opening statement, and I mean this in the kindest way, I could give 2 S's about how many units a franchise has sold. What I love most is you're going to basically double in size in a very soft way without breaking down your systems, versus like the 40 plus sold. Like, those need to take time to mature in order for you guys to continue to operationalize how do we support the franchisees. Because the other thing that I heard on the opening statement is, we're done being corporate operators. It's a lot of work. And so you think back to a franchisee that's doing this, arguably most of them for the first time. Well, to go 1 to 2, that's a big leap, but 2 to 3 is a huge leap. And so if you're building the systems and processes in here, and you're like, okay, let's focus on how we make these franchisees successful, then you'll pioneer franchising for an emerging brand in a different way too.
I agree. Yeah. We coming from Scottsdale, where our first location is, we were privy to a lot of other folks who were serial franchisors and had been through a few of the crazes, specifically beauty crazes. And we were kind of able to sit back and watch since we started, really, because they kind of took us under their wing, and we were able to kind of watch things. And what we noticed is development looks a lot different, and the craze through development looks a lot different than the landscape looks in 5 years. And we're more interested in the landscape in 5 years than the initial franchise fee play and all those things that you kind of see in the market that are kind of buyer beware. So that's been really important to us, is dialing down what we do and kind of focusing on it. Truth be told, we stopped our dev advertising last year in November because we reached, I think, 9 or 11 deals for the year. And at that point, I was getting a little bit leery that we could support those folks the way that the document says that we're gonna. So we closed it off, and then we started again, I think, February of this year, when we felt, we were kind of making some ground and not dealing with the mistakes that kind of happened along the way. We feel really good about that, and we're going to take our time and make sure that we're there for all the franchisees.
Do you guys have not fear? Fear's the wrong term, but like a battle of the good and the bad on the shoulders of like a sense of urgency? Because obviously, like, I had to go look up what sugaring was. I had no idea what it was. I mean, I kept on eating donuts to try to get rid of my back hair, and it didn't work. So, just kidding. But like, that you're pioneering something, and you can look at anything. It could go all the way back to when Massage Envy is saying, "Wow, let's pull the massages out of the spa and make it accessible to everybody on a regular basis." And then the whole category explodes. Like, that you have a product that solves a problem for the customer. And then from a point of differentiation, like the reality is, competitor brands are going to appear, because once they sniff out that you have success, they're coming at you. So are you struggling? Like not struggling again. Like you have like the good shoulder, bad shoulder saying like, we need a sense of urgency, but we have to protect the franchisees. Like how's that mental challenge?
You want that one? Yeah, no, it's true.
No. You start. I think you're a good start, and then I have something to add for sure.
Yeah, I think that, it's a challenge that you have as an emerging. The other part of it is if you don't support those folks, and this is a new technology, sugaring hair removal, and it's different than wax in a number of applicable ways that are really important. And so to make sure that you're doing it right, you kind of have to go at a certain pace. And so, we hear it sometimes like, oh, this guy, or they're going to be bigger or whatever. I don't really mind that so much because I see the numbers that our open businesses are doing, and they're mind-blowing for me. So none of our corporate stores have ever kind of pushed the way that those folks are pushing. And so I know that we're doing something right on our end. So it isn't so much the keeping up with the Joneses. Now, we've never stuck our heads in the sand like ostriches. We know who they are and what they do. But we know that ultimately, like any business, anywhere, it's going to be won and lost at the consumer level. And so that's important for us to kind of recognize all the time is, are we treating our clients right? Are we rebooking those clients? How does everything look? And I think that's kind of what separates us. And that's what will separate our franchisees from any competitors in their markets too.
Yeah. I think fear is a good thing, and you should definitely we don't stick our head in the sand, but we are always thinking like it's a chess game. You just want to take a few steps ahead. We know they're doing this, we're going to do this. They're doing that, we're going to do it better. Will and I are quick learners, and the team that we're building around us is exactly that too, because we know what we're up against now, sort of leading, one of us, one of 2 or 3 companies that are leading the charge in the sugaring hair removal sector. 2 of the things I think that really do separate us, at least, is we have a really strong culture piece that we show up for every day. And, I hear companies all the time saying like, we have a great culture, but we really, really focus on it down to the words that are coming out of our employees. We really focus. And then the second piece, especially with sugaring hair removal, you have to have the training. You just have to have it. You have to have that foundation that's going to that's able to be taught nationally and we even have animations being built. Like, we have a back-end portal for education. We call it Sugar University, because why not? And all of our girls are graduates from it, all of our estheticians. So little things like that. We know what the other players are doing, and we know what we do really, really well, and we just pound on it.
What was interesting, Nick, and this is a small aside, is in this industry, I found out sugaring and waxing, there's a handful, maybe 40 to 60% are woman started, but we're one of the only ones in sugaring or waxing that's still woman driven. And I think that that's the difference for us, is it's not like, it's not like we bring out a Ronald McDonald and be like, here's the person, look, and she smiles and waves. We're women driven every day because we know that resonates with the client.
I love that.
You still do the wave.
I can do the parade wave.
That's good. You just excited the entire audience by that. That's good. So, okay, so flip over to, I want to talk some things, unit level economics and FDD. The first question I have is, what are you requiring the franchisee to spend on grand opening?
10,000.
Okay, so you're not asking me for my advice, but I'm going to give it anyway. I would triple that, and here's why. Franchisee mindset comes in and it says, "But you said 10 grand." You're pioneering a new segment. The marketing ends up being essential. Now, at the back end of that, if they spend properly, you'll obviously make more from a royalty standpoint, and they'll make more because they're getting the customer acquisition. So it does work positively in both areas. I would look at that 30-ish or more and say, how do we spread this over several months? A grand opening doesn't have to be month 1. It can be spread over time, because if you look at sales volume, you're going to have out of the gates, people want to try it. Then you're going to have a percentage that fall off of there. So then call it the 90-day to 120-day period. You want them to pump more dollars back into this then. And then I like them to really save some for the year anniversary. They give them the birthday celebration. That should align back to culture. So that was the first thing that I'm thinking about. Because you're pioneering a new category, you want your franchisees not to get caught up on that 10 grand or, spend X percent of your every dollar, because I see it gets tripped up so much. By increasing that, that's also, it ends up being cash that they have in their pockets, because you're not telling them to spend it on day one. So it folds into the operating capital. But that was the first thing that I'm thinking about. Any comments on that?
No, that's really interesting. I think one of the goals that we're looking at is, I think Orange Theory I've heard before, their locations open in the black. And I know that that's what makes them really attractive to investors and the franchisees. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I know that we could do. I feel that our concept is every bit as good as Orange Theory. And so to get us to that place where we have the memberships on hand to be able to, where a franchisee opens and says, wow, I'm good for the month. That's something that we're pushing really hard on. And that might be a piece of it, honestly, is bumping that up.
Yeah, because you've been through some franchisees, obviously, starting to onboard now. Again, like you don't want them to get tripped up in that process. What's cost to get in? Are you doing an item 19 currently?
Yeah, I sounded like you said what's cost to get open, or what's?
Yeah, what's your all-in investment?
All in is about, I think right now, I think it's so hard because every year, the last 2 or 3 years, it's really changed and drastically. I think this year it's 129, depending on if you find a great second gen location, all the way up to, I think, 260 or 270.
Just shy of 300.
Shy of 300.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. And it just depends on obviously where you're at, the generational space, what's left, how you're kind of working.
Do you have an item 19?
Yes.
What are you guys disclosing in that?
I think revenue ends up being, we had 2 locations that we did for 2023. One was, I think, 560, and the other one I think is 525. Next year, I'm hopeful to put one of the franchisees in. Little secret, one of our franchisees was profitable his second full month. Now, I cheated a little bit and opened on like the 4th or the 6th of the 3rd month, but nevertheless, I feel really good about that. That's a full disclosure right there.
Yeah. So back of the napkin, I'll say, and obviously you guys have been operating the corporate stores for some time, so it does take time to get there. But in my opinion, and this is the number that you guys want to keep thinking through. If you can show that the investment can be paid back in 3 years, if I took every dollar that came out of this thing could pay off my investment, one, that's great for scale. And then 2, that's viability of business is the proof in there. The other thing, and again, not that you're asking for this advice, but you have a brand that can be a multi-brand, multi-unit brand. And obviously you guys are the avatars of that because you've proven out how do we operate multiple locations. So when you're looking at the franchisees to come in, because this ends up being the most critical thing in pioneering a category, is qualify them to own 3. It doesn't mean you sell them 3 on day one. You're saying get first one open, have enough for unit 2, and then have a rainy day fund. That will give you guiding principles, because the worst thing that takes a disruptor concept is if the franchisees stall out. And so your last statement on franchisee success is clearly there. If all franchisees say met and destroyed my expectations positively, then you're going to continue to win. Because like I'll say, like, it is rare to find a disruptor brand. Like it's hard to come up with the next thing. Like Crumble Cookies did not invent cookies. Cookies have been around forever. They just found a way to tell the story a little bit differently and present it. The frozen yogurt brands didn't create frozen yogurt. They just found a way. You guys are pioneering a whole new category. And that's where some of the protections or advice that you get in the early stages might give you the chance to actually be one of the better brands. And then you can go do it in another category too.
Yeah, we agree.
No, after this, we are hitting a beach. No other category after this. It's beach time.
You say that, but I'll play this back in a few years when you go do that.
Like, remember this statement.
Yeah, that's right. So, okay, so let's say someone's watched our conversation up to this point. What else do you want them to know about the opportunity before we close?
Yeah. I think that, obviously we are trying to grow and scale. We're trying to find the right people. What I love about Sugar is that from day one, the clean beauty, sugaring push, it started in the food industry. People became label readers and they really started to ask, what in the world am I putting in my mouth? And for us, it made sense that eventually it would make its way to beauty. We aren't playing catch up like a lot of other brands. So people that are passionate about clean, I think Sugar would really resonate. Another great thing about Sugar is that we don't just sugar. We actually have 4 categories that we're really strong in. We're not going to be the spa that does 2,052 things, because my fear would be that a client books 1,022 and, well, when's the last time one of my estheticians actually did that service? So we've niched it down small enough where we're doing a few different things that complement each other. Our spray tan is organic. It's beautiful. You can do it right after a sugaring.
Which you can't do after waxing.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do a spray tan after a wax.
After
so we have
wax.
that advantage right from the outside.
Yeah. So we just have a few things like that. So I think for the owner operator, it's a little more fun. They're just owning a one trick pony sort of concept. And I think it's great for keeping those employees a little bit longer because they are doing a variety of things throughout the day.
Yeah,
so our retention rate on our girls is much, much higher. Yeah, I mean, those are a couple of things for sure, as we grow that are important.
Yeah.
I wish I could sugar you. I brought my sugar.
So someday, yes.
Yeah.
Someday I'll do it. I told you the donuts for the back hair isn't working. I really don't know.
Worst decision ever.
It's working. It's just working against you.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Now, look, I'll say this. I love that you talk about culture. You can see it in your guys' facial expressions and the way that you talk. You're very proud of what you've created. Oftentimes that relates back to the franchise buyer. The line that I say way too often is, you bet on the jockey, not on the horse. Like, you could say, here's what we're going to do to take care of our franchisees, and we're selling lawn mowing, and I would still say go do it. And so keep lifting up your guys' personal story, because that's who I'm going to bet on. And because you guys are so committed to trying to be a pioneer in a new space, that's what I'm going to buy into. So make sure brands don't sell brands, people do. Keep lifting that up. And I appreciate you guys doing this, and I look forward to seeing where the story goes.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, look forward to talking to you soon.
Yeah, this was fun. We appreciate it.
We love talking about ourselves. So thanks for allowing us to talk about ourselves.
We'll do more self positivity later. So
that sounds good. I love it. All right, have a good one. We appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. For Will and Amy, I'm Nick. This is another episode of Meet the Zor.